Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be breaking down our main event for UFC Vegas 113. In this matchup, we have Mario Bautista taking on Vinicius Oliveira. This is going to be an amazing main event. Both guys, very high level, very skilled, very different in how they do their styles, and it is definitely one of those fights where the stylistic matchup just tells you a lot about who's likely to control the cage. As you got Bautista, who's very well rounded, very systematic in his approach. What I mean is he's very good at transitioning from striking to grappling and back again, and using it in a very structured order, and also with his game plan and how he approaches his fight. Pretty explosive as well. And, I know he still has some flack for the Jose Aldo fight. I don't care. I picked him against Aldo. That's probably one of the big reasons. But also, at the end of the day, he did what he had to do to win. Was it boring? Yes. But he got the win at the end of the day, so what does it matter? Plus, erasing that fight, all of his other fights have somewhat been exciting for me. Ricky Simone was fun. The Patchy Mix fight was pretty fun for me. But that a lot of the boring aspects, I think, came from Mix, not Bautista. And at the end of the day, the dude is super skilled. I mean, he pushed Umar. You could say, yeah, he pushed Umar to the limits. He tested Umar greatly in their fight. And while Umar clearly won, Bautista had a lot of moments in that fight. So I'm not going to count him out as a contender in this division. In fact, I think he's the most underrated guy in the division. Meanwhile, you have Lock Dog Oliveira, who's much more raw, aggressive striker who wants to push forward and impose as well, and is quite possibly the dark horse of the division. As you see Oliveira's run through the UFC right now, he's 4-0 in the UFC and has already gone some great wins, getting a KO of the year contender in 2024 against Bernardo Sopai with that flying knee out of nowhere, then defeating Ricky Simone via decision, Said Nurmagomedov last February, and then in his most recent win, defeated Kyler Phillips last July at UFC 318. So Oliveira has been getting some really high-level wins as of recent in the division. And now, he takes on what I would call the best opponents in his career, and the biggest step up for his career, as if Oliveira were to win, he would be firmly in the top 10, and then from there, who knows what other matchups they can make with him. Meanwhile, looking at Bautista's last 5 fights, he's currently 4-1 in his last 5 fights. As I said, his most recent fight was the loss to Umar at UFC 327 last October. But he was on a really good win streak, which included names like Damon Blackshear, Ricky Simone, Jose Aldo, Patchy Mix, and so on. Like, he hadn't not lost in a little over 5 years. That should tell you how good Bautista is. But like I said, this is going to be a great fight, and I think a great main event for the first fight night of 2026 for the UFC in the new Paramount era. But without further ado, let's get down to the breakdown. Starting with Bautista. He's a fighter who knows how to mix up his striking and grappling without ever overcommitting. He can be pretty explosive when he wants to, but also calculated. And on the feet, Bautista can strike with volume or wait for one clean shot to land. I mean, most people don't know this, but I believe it was his debut fight against Miles John. He pulled out a flying knee and knocked Johns out pretty effectively. And on the ground, Bautista's very slick and technical with a knack for transitions and submissions. He got a reverse triangle armbar against one of his opponents as well, or just the easy rear naked choke on Brian Kelleher. Bautista's really good. He's very good everywhere. Bautista's real advantage, though, is his ability to control the fight in multiple ranges. He can brawl, he can grapple, and he can neutralize his opponent's strengths by just staying smart and measured. That's his game. He's very well-rounded and very smart in his approach. And think of it, the only 2 people to beat him in the UFC are Sanhagen and Nurmagomedov, 2 top 5 contenders and 2 title challengers, mind you. Meanwhile, for Vinicius Oliveira, he's aggressive, forward-moving, and very confident in his power. He likes to press opponents, throw combinations, and dictate pace with volume. The problem is, I find Oliveira's style can be a bit predictable at a high level. He doesn't necessarily... It's not the problem of him not mixing up his attacks. He actually does that pretty well. Whether it was, like I said, the flying knee on Sopai or using his wrestling effectively against Said Nurmagomedov. But the problem is, I feel like Oliveira, if an opponent doesn't panic or overcommit, his aggression can really create openings. And now, that being said, Oliveira's strength is his raw energy and power. Like, he is big for the division. If you saw on media day, he literally said he cuts like 50 pounds to make the weight. That is insane. No wonder, too. I mean, obviously, it's no secret. He looks huge for this division. And he's pretty tough, though. And another, I'd say, good aspect for Oliveira is definitely his ability to fight while tired. You've seen it past the, onto the third round. He can get pretty tired, as like against Saeed, for example, but he just fights through exhaustion so much better than most of his opposition. Now, I think he's going to struggle, though, against someone like Bautista, because Bautista has really good cardio. You've seen it in a 3-round fight. He was definitely the fresher guy against most of his opponents. That's how he looked so good against like Umar, because he had the gas tank. And even up at altitude at UFC 307 against Aldo, Bautista was the fresher guy. Bautista got good cardio. He really does. And I think someone against Oliveira who's known to kind of fade in the third round, that could be a possible problem, just like looking at how their styles go. But seeing how they clash is different. So I think early on, Oliveira will likely push the pace, expect him to move forward, throw combinations, and try to force Bautista into exchanges. Oliveira, he wants to make this fight uncomfortable and keep Bautista from settling into his rhythm. That's his best chance. If he lands early and builds momentum, he could easily shut the show off like that. Or win the first few rounds, and then Bautista is forced to play catch-up. But Bautista, however, is excellent at reading pressure. He doesn't panic under aggression. He absorbs it, times counters, and exploits openings. And if Oliveira overcommits or throws wide shots, Bautista can land clean strikes, initiate clinch control, and even take the fight to the mat where, Oliveira's shown good wrestling, and he's got some submissions to him. If you look at it, his 23 wins. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Of his 23 wins, in 2 right submissions. So it's not like Oliveira doesn't have the ability to find a submission, but Bautista is much better of a submission artist in my mind, and I think he's overall better on the mat than Oliveira. So I think Bautista's versatility is what makes this matchup very tricky for Oliveira. The fight can go in multiple directions, and all of them, I think, favor Bautista as long as he stays composed and doesn't get overwhelmed by the offense of Oliveira. And, on the ground, Bautista, like I said, he has the edge. And while Oliveira isn't a bad grappler, you saw him take down Saeed. You saw him be able to handle the wrestling of Ricky Simone. Oliveira is very good with takedown defense, very good at his own takedowns. But again, a lot of it comes down to his frame, how big he is, and usually being able to fight while exhausted against opponents who might be equally or more tired than him. But Bautista's transitions and submissions are a cut above Oliveira's. And even if Oliveira tries to scramble, Bautista can stay tight, control position, and punish mistakes. In the clinch, while Oliveira is going to have the edge in physicality, I think Bautista's experience allows him to dictate exchanges rather than get pushed around. And I don't know if there's a mental side to this. You could say it would go to Oliveira because he's streaking and is on a hot streak right now. But at the same time, Bautista is very calm. He's very patient, and he'll probably want to get back in the win column. So I can't really say mental edge goes to either guy per se, because there's some advantages coming off a loss. Like, you just want to get that win back. You want to prove people they're wrong, but at the same time, riding momentum is also a great mental edge advantage. So for me, that's kind of a deadlock. So there we go. So for my official prediction, I'm going to go with Mario Bautista, and I'm going to pick him via decision in this fight. I've really thought about this a lot. Like I said, the biggest thing for Oliveira is that he does tend to fade as the fight goes on. That's like one of the biggest reasons why I'm not picking him. And while, yes, he has fought under exhaustion very well against Saeed, is the best example I can think of, or hell, even against Kyler Phillips. Bautista has now that extra 4th and 5th round to continue working. And he is a 5-round fighter. He has the ability to go 5 rounds, because we've seen him go very hard in the 3rd round and not look winded. And I for sure can think his cardio, his well-roundedness, and just how well he's coached are going to help him greatly in being able to take the last 2 rounds. Could a finish happen? It's possible. Like I said, he's pretty dangerous, specifically with his submissions. But I mean, Oliveira is very tough to get out of there. I don't even think he's been finished before. So, and Bautista at the end of the day, while I say he's exciting, and I think he is for the most part, again, although fight not excluded, I think Bautista is more so going to be smart and win rounds rather than try and win like that one big moment to get the finish. But, it's fighting. Anything can happen. But for my official prediction, I'm going to go with Mario Bautista, and I'm going to pick him via decision in this fight. But with that being said, that's been my breakdown of our main event. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary, and remember, stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see y'all next time.